Hello YouTube, welcome back to Road to the First Show, although I think I want to rename this. I don't know what is going on with this habit of me starting a series and renaming it part of the way through, but I'm going to give it a more accurate name, right, because I'm not ready to step on stage anytime now, right? I'm probably just going to call it Summer Diet 2025, right? Yeah, I'm probably just going to call it Summer Diet, right, and just completely steal Sam Sulek's whole flow and just do that until I am actually ready, and then I'll do a prep series, but until that time, Summer Diet. So what you're gonna see today is me basically prep my food for the entire week. You're also gonna see me do a pull session. I'm gonna make it useful to watch for you because I'm gonna basically go over how I diet, both from a food standpoint and a training standpoint, to not only get lean, but also try and hold on to as much of the muscle mass as I can. Do I look tired? I feel like my coffee first. The world. So in terms of what else is on the agenda today, I wanna finish the editing for the week of Instagram content, the short form content, not this stuff. We did the check-in with the team yesterday and everyone's a-okay for what is the week to come. However, there is a couple program updates as always, changes to the plans. I need to make on a few of those. I might have to shut up now because this is gonna get loud. So I started making breakfast. Something interesting that I learned on Sunday, I guess it's an opinion-based thing, right? Is the longest time, right, between coaching, training, work, whatever I've got going on. Oh, you've got a shift later tonight as well, by the way, I forgot to mention that. Because I still work a normal job, right, alongside doing the training, the coaching. I'm still just a normal guy, I'm a humble waiter, right? I'll be bussing around a restaurant like this. Hello, sir. Your vegan scrambled eggless omelets, I don't know. But it's something that I think we've been told, right, in the performance, optimization, self-improvement space, right, is that you should start your day doing the hardest and the most important thing, right? You've probably heard that before. It's definitely something that I've heard and it's something that I've lived by. I want to say pretty dogmatically, right? But me and Suki on Sunday watched this high performance little webinar web series thing by Suki Siju, who actually, funnily, I didn't realize is my mentor, so he's got to be somewhat decent, right? And he was saying this eating the frog idea, which is what it's called, don't need to do it, right? He said it's more important for him in his day to build momentum instead of just having to eat the frog and do the hardest thing. So for the longest time, I'd always try and start my day and get into some deep work straight off the bat. I kind of procrastinate that a little bit, right, because I'm not that excited to go and do that. Also, frankly, I'm not a morning person, so when I first wake up, I don't think I'm at my best. I'm probably at my best like late morning, right? So instead of forcing myself to eat the frog and do the hardest thing first, I've just started making my breakfast and getting my whole day's food ready. Generally is how I start the day. Because these are, like, I don't want to say quite tedious, but they're quite boring tasks as well, so I don't particularly enjoy doing those either. So I feel like I procrastinate those quite a lot. So just fuck it off, get out of the way. What will become a deconstructed omelette underway. But anyway, what I want to start doing is discussing the problem with getting lean and why keeping the muscle mass is hard to do. Getting lean is hard enough already, right? And I know that some of you will have had trouble with that. And there'll be even more of you that have had trouble with that. But through that process, get through it and feel like you've probably lost some muscle, right? Losing body fat is hard. Gaining muscle mass is hard. Maintaining muscle mass and losing body fat at the same time, it's basically a perfect science, right? The tool we have that sends the message to tell our body to hold on to that muscle is training stimulus. And now when you're dieting, you've got less energy, you've got less oomph. You don't feel the same for your session, you know what I mean? And so for a lot of people, their lifts come down, which means the stimulus is worse, there's less calories in the system, which means you're from looking decent and a lot of muscle mass. So maybe you've gone through this grueling dieting process and now you feel like you just look skinny, right? What's gone wrong in that process? Today we're gonna figure that out. So then, given the problem and what we've just talked about, we'll touch on nutrition first because I'm cooking and it just kind of makes sense. How do we stop training performance from dropping off? How do we stop more muscle than we want from leaving the physique? And how do we make this process as least painful as possible, right? Because for most of you watching, you probably just want to get fairly lean, right? See your abs for the first time, unveil a little bit of that muscle you've been working really hard to build. If you are somebody that wants to step on the stage at some point, you will have to do a prep, and a prep will not be, oh, Jesus, cutting means your voice breaks as well, apparently. The prep will probably not be an enjoyable experience, right? But for most of you, it doesn't have to be as difficult as it's made out to be, right? You don't need to carry the boats. You don't need to carry the logs. You can if you want to. And I do think that training is a good opportunity to test and I guess just challenge yourself a little bit mentally. And I don't think it's a bad thing to go through a little bit of discomfort, but especially if this is something that you've struggled to do before, you've never quite achieved it, let's struggle just enough, right? So my first bit of advice from a nutritional standpoint is take it slow and steady. Don't rush the process. Minimum effective dose. As a general rule of thumb, right, I'm gonna ask you to do some maths, right? So if you're not mathematically brained, don't feel bad about using a calculator, it's okay. We're just here to lift heavy thing from one point to another in a controlled manner. We're then gonna slightly increase food every week, and then for a period gonna reduce food a little bit every single week and try and lift heavier thing week by week. That's literally the training process, by the way. Simple, right, on paper, but it's the adherence and the consistency that's the hard part. That's why I've got a job. But generally, my first bit of advice, take it slow and steady. What do I look for week to week in terms of weight loss for myself and with clients? 1 to 2% of total body weight, right? So at the start of my diet, I was around 94 kilos. I think it's sort of around 200-pound figure, right? So I'll be looking for anywhere from 2 to 4 pounds of weight loss. Now I'm about 84, 83, somewhere around there. 183, 4 pounds. So now it's naturally going to slow down a little bit, and I'm looking more for between 1.8 to 3.6 pounds per week. Now give yourself a lot of time, and if you want to preserve the most muscle mass possible, go for more like 1 to 1.5%. If this is going to be a little bit boring for you, you just want to turn up the dial a little bit more and are willing to maybe lose potentially a little bit more, go for the more 2%. I've been dieting now for, let me have a look, because I go over the first mistake right before any diet. I've been dieting since the 17th of March, right? Brother, we're in July now. It's a long time. Why has it had to be so long? Because I got a little bit complacent with my bulk. I got fatter than I wanted to. When I first started my diet, I came in arrogantly. I thought losing fat was easy, right? But I'm busier than I was before, more clients than I had before. I'm working more hours than I was before at the part-time job, taking on more stress, right? I'm actually an adult now, which means maybe the metabolism slowed a little bit as well. And also losing fat wasn't as easy as it once was. I got complacent, I got arrogant, and the fat loss gods taught me a lesson. So yeah, I've been dieting for a long time. But if I was on the ball and I was more sensible, it could have been done a lot quicker. But even in doing it quicker, slow and steady wins the race. You don't want to be losing, unless you're an individual that's carrying a lot of excess body fat, right? And that's not a dig. Let's just face the problem as it is. You can probably lose a lot more than that in the beginning. But if you're just holding a little bit of post-bulk fluff, take it slow and steady. Be patient, but make sure you are looking for those weight reductions week by week, right? Fucked up omelette. Oh, it's just scrambled egg in it, really, with some vegetables. So how do you set up your diet in order to achieve that objective? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. When it comes to my dieting, and to be honest, most of the bulk as well, I am quite literally eating the same thing every day, right? That might not work for everyone, but as I say, I'm not going to sugarcoat. This is, if you are busy, right, and you are someone that struggles for time and you just want the most easiest results that are going to come, right? Eating the same thing every day, or what I do with one of my clients, James, is we eat the same thing Monday through Friday, and then we give him flexibility on the weekend through tracking. We actually give him some more calories on the weekend as well, which is something that you can do. But I won't lie, eating the same thing every day, or maybe having a couple meals that you can rotate, is the easiest thing, because it takes the guesswork out. You follow the meal plan that you've set out for yourself, right? You don't have to do this, you can just track food, right? Talking about Sam Sulek, he was the one, I think he just tracks his food every single day, doesn't necessarily eat the same thing. For me personally, if it was like a full-time gig, I might do that. But because it's not, I need just something that's so systemized and just works, right? The less decisions you have to make, decision fatigue, the easier the process is. So if you're willing to do that for a time, right? And if you are eating the same thing every day, if you get bored, let's change up the meals, right? But that's the easiest way. You could then have a meal plan which has different foods throughout the week, right? You might have pasta night, you might have chicken and rice night, yay! But you can change things up. You don't have to eat the same thing every day. But meal plan is, again, probably the easier thing because you don't have to make decisions. In the third list of priorities, you can also just do the tracking method where you track to hit your things. But again, if you're someone that doesn't want the best results, right, or doesn't want the most craziest of things, maybe if it's your first time, you can just go down the route of intuitive eating. That's what I've done with Blake, where we basically just eliminated fried foods, got him eating a number of square meals per day. We actually did track his proteins, make sure he's getting enough to sustain that muscle. And generally that's between 1.5 grams to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, right? Or tending up towards sort of a gram per pound, right? Is that 2.2 grams per kilogram? If you want to cover all your bases, get a gram per pound of body weight, maybe even higher, right? If you're really trying to optimize things. But you could also do intuitive eating. So looking at meal one, we have 270 grams of egg whites, 2 whole eggs. We also have a handful of frozen peppers, handful of mushrooms, and a block of frozen spinach as well, right? So we've got protein in there. We're gonna basically flesh out the meal with a lot of veggies, right? And that's one of the biggest bits of advice I would give you, is with most of your meals, add things that are gonna be filling and gonna increase the volume of the meal, right? We also have a mug of frozen berries on the side, right? I just microwave it, right? Not conventional, right? I understand this is not a normal looking meal, right? But we've got the protein, but then we also flesh it out with things like fruit, things like veg. It baffles me that people out there still think that fruit makes you fat, right? That's crazy. Fruit is mostly fiber, water, especially like berries. All this is gonna do is increase the food volume, lead you to feeling less hungry. What I should also have on with this meal is a half bagel, right? I don't have it. Food delivery driver didn't bring my bagels. So there's gonna be problems on that point next time I see him, right? Now, don't have the bagel, I'm dieting. So I might as well just skip the bagel, right? No, I'm gonna supplement the calories lost with a banana. And some of you might think you take an opportunity to eat less, it's not the end of the world, right? Maybe not now, but if I know that what I'm eating is enough for me to lose weight, I don't want to reduce the calories any further. Again, we want to do this slow and steady. We want to give ourselves the most energy for our sessions possible. So I'd actually suggest that you don't skip calories or starve yourself any more than you need to. This is a mentality that a lot of beginners have, because they just feel they've got to lock in and really starve themselves and suffer. Minimum effective dose. If you've got a crunch period for a holiday, maybe you can do this, but you should have given yourself enough time, right? Don't expect results in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, even 8 weeks, depending on where you're at with your body fat is pushing it. So don't skip your meals, don't take food away. Also have here is the cream of rice dish, which is kind of a pre-workout meal. So I'm gonna eat the scrambled eggs in a moment, and then finish the rest of the week's meal prep, which I'll show you in a moment. And then we're gonna eat this, we're gonna head out to train, find a little quiet spot before work to get a little bit of programming done and finish the week's editing of content, short form content. This Biscoff spread into the cream of rice. Is it optimal? No. But at this point, I'm giving myself just little wins, right? Swap my 20 grams of almond butter every now and again. I put some Lotus Biscoff spread. Same calories, match them. It's not healthy, it's not optimal. But you get a few fuck around points, right? So you can utilize them if you wish. And that is the cream of rice done, which is 80 grams of cream of rice, 1.5 grams of salt, 20 grams of Lotus Biscoff spread, 2 servings of whey paste on top, topped with 100 grams of blueberries. Tastes like a dessert. It's brilliant for the results. Now, let's go meal prep. And that is meal prep, done and dusted. It only took an hour today, which just goes to show people that struggle with time for creating food and saying that it's really difficult to do that. 1 hour of your week. Bearing in mind, I didn't take any time to go and shop for it because I get it ordered in with Amazon, an hour for basically what is all of the week's food, apart from breakfast and stuff. But let's take a little look at what we have going on. So obviously had the eggs dish first. I'm going to now eat the cream of rice before we go and train. And then what we've also got later in the day is meal one, chicken, rice and veg, seasoned with curry powder, a bunch of seasonings in there, right? The rice was done with veg and stock, and then we've also got beef mince, rice and veg. Again, real bog standard, right? As far as what you would expect from a diet, right? But it doesn't mean it has to be as quote boring. I genuinely, right, I always say to people, the food doesn't always necessarily look the most appetizing because it's thrown together, it's done for efficiency. But I genuinely look forward to these meals, right? I know it's just chicken, rice and veg, right? I know it's just chicken, rice and, no, beef mince, rice and veg. But the one thing that I will do is I won't necessarily rotate meals because again, I'll make it as easy as possible. You can do that, but I'll change the seasoning. I'll change the condiments that I use. One week I'll do jerk, the other time I'll do curry. I might make a tomato-based sauce, right? And even curries, like there's curry sauces that you can make that are lower in calories, right? Probably some of the hotter ones where you don't use like, you know, fat creams, fat sauces. You can literally make what is a simple dish like chicken, rice and broccoli. You can completely change the flavor. You can completely change the eating experience. If you do get bored, you can swap carbs and make a pasta dish instead. You can make it with potatoes, right? There's a lot of things you can do. You could do hot pot recipes, right? It doesn't have to be boring. And if all of that still sounds boring with the versatility that you've got, your problem probably isn't that food is too boring for you. You're probably just used to eating most of the week, right? Or most of the time, hyper-palatable junk food, right? Which is gonna, I spoke about this in a bit of short form content recently, that if you're always eating hyper-palatable food, right? Your kind of palate is used to, your dopamine system is wired to what is like this super dopaminergic food, which is just filled with fat, sugar, salt, right? It actually will help you to start taking some of those things away, and then you will find that healthy food seems a little bit more appealing, right? That's one of the reasons why I say, as much as if it fits your macros and calories out, obviously in theory works perfectly well. If you're trying to get super lean, it might be a good idea to severely reduce, if not at the end of your diet for a time being, get rid of these high palatable foods, because as I say, you're going to start to crave those things more the more that you eat them, right? Keep it boring, and then boring seems less boring over time. And I can tell you now, the time that I do have off-plan meals, which I had one last week, had like lamb steak with peppercorn sauce and a few other things and a little snack and dessert. You appreciate that stuff a lot more than you would do, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are eating junk food every day, right? You don't even appreciate it anymore, right? You're just gorging on shit, basically. So that is my estimation. Right, what is the plan now? Cream rice dish gonna go down, we're gonna shower, then we're gonna head out to train, and then we're gonna head to work, get a little bit of work done at one job before I start the other job, right? Because we've got a foot and grafter lab. Supplements going in. Oh, nice. Attractive. About to head out, and I want to show you the noble steed. Here we go. Hey, oh boy. That was a bit autistic, wasn't it? Anyway, about to head out. So we've got training, a little bit of work, then followed by the shift. Little one, right? People say that you go to work, they struggle to keep on top of diet. Meal prep bag, so you can literally take one of those to work, get the well-insulated one, put in a couple of ice packs. Food will last for an entire day, right? There's literally no excuse. If you're traveling for one day, or just because you go to work, people will sometimes tell me, oh, I had to go into the office today, so I had to have food, I had to go and get lunch. Why? Doesn't make sense to me. Meal prep bag, take care of that, not a problem. Most of you have cars, right? I'm literally getting everywhere on bike at the minute. And to be fair, that's another point I was going to make about if you want to give yourself more calories to play with, right? If you don't want your calories to go as low as they might have to otherwise, find any opportunity to increase activity. I basically go everywhere on the old bike now. And what that does for me means I don't really have to do any extra cardio, right? My calories are higher than they would have been. Win, right? Not saying you have to do that, but in terms of the food, right? You've got a car, stick your meal prep bag, the boot of your car, ice packs, absolutely no reason to fall off. And they're like £15 off Amazon, right? Considering you'd spend that on one lunch, you'll save so much money as well. Pro struts. You literally took a lunchbox to school every day, right? Are you telling me that 12-year-old you was more disciplined than you? I don't think so. Stop making excuses. So we're about to get into the pool session of the day, especially now I'm biking down. I like to just take a quick 5 minutes before I get started to decompress and get ready. The preparation before the war is what I might say if I was trying to be edgy, but it's not that deep. We're just trading pool. But as I was talking about earlier, as we get deeper into the diet, sessions are gonna feel daunting, more difficult. I'm looking at the logbook numbers that I will have hit last week, and I'm sort of just thinking, am I going to match those this week? Because as I was saying in the beginning, one of the reasons that you will tend to lose muscle through a diet is if your strength, or what I should really say is if you allow your strength to decline too much. You can allow, naturally as it progresses you are going to lose strength. That is just, it's impossible to maintain it or progress all the way throughout. But especially for the first 6, 8, 10 weeks, you should still be chasing progressions. In the early stages of the diet, I still took some progressions on some movements, right? But you should make it a promise to yourself to try to fucking maintain as much as you can. I can't stress enough how important that is. to finishing your diet and looking at the physique and thinking, I've added size since last time I was this lean. It is incredibly hot here right now, so I'm actually gonna drink a whole one of these first before we create the potion being the pre-workout. So hopefully we should finish here around sometime just after 4, which will give us enough time to get to work, take a couple boxes and get ready for a shift, which in this heat is not nice. So we're just gonna add half a scoop of pre-workout. I don't rely anywhere near as much as I used to back in the day on high stim pre-workouts to get through the session. I think you should really avoid relying on that as much as you can, because then you create this dependence or this need to always have it with you in sessions where maybe you might have forgot it. You feel as though it's gonna be a terrible session. So I just take half a scoop. It's just enough to feel a little something going on, but not too much. If you're always getting super stimmed out, right, to complete your top sets, and you always have to get the loudest of music, and you're always in this high energy state, where do you go from there? I would say save that. As you get deeper into a cut, to be fair, it's not a bad idea. Right, this is finished. I think this is finished, might as well be. If I can put a bit more of that in there, why not? So I'm out of workout now. Back in the day, I'd be panicking. I'd have to get another one before I train legs tomorrow. I'm gonna train legs tomorrow without it. So I'm not a pussy. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7 movements, right? Decent start, right? Out of the 5 sets that I've just done, start that session, out of 5 of them, we've progressed on 4, and we maintained on 1. That is with me hitting my newest low body weight of 182.4 pounds this morning, matched from, I think it was last Friday, and having dieted for like 16 weeks, right? That's what I mean. It's no excuse to allow your gym lift to suffer. And you've seen, like, I work with tempos, and that's something extra that I would say is really important for you to do, is to not maintain your strength at the expense of losing accuracy or changing the way in which you perform the reps, right? Your reps should look the same, whether it's like the start of a dieting phase or the end of a dieting phase, like either way. So working with tempo is really important, keeping that consistent. But yeah, just not accepting it. If you find that you're not able to do that, it's one of 2 problems. Either you're going too aggressive, or there's something wrong with your process, you're not getting enough protein, you're not getting enough rest. Or number 2, you're simply not attacking your sessions with enough energy. And that is the pull session done and dusted. We took progressions on, I think it's everything but one movement, right? So again, biggest takeaway when it comes to training, try and maintain your numbers, try and maintain your strength for as long as you possibly can, okay? This is just gonna preserve your muscle mass, right? And to be fair, like at points throughout your diet, you might wanna manipulate things like volume, right? Without getting too technical, the leaner you get, less calories you've got to make use of, your upper limit for maximum recoverable volume, right, comes down, and your maintenance volume, what it takes to basically maintain muscle, gets higher. So you basically want to try and find the sweet spot, right? For me, it's very hard to determine exactly where it is. For me, it's basically training performance dictates everything, right? If things are struggling, more retention. Now, about 6 to 8 weeks out from finishing the diet, I haven't been showing my physique on Instagram, social media. Do I show it now? How many people are realistically going to watch this? Probably not a lot. I might include this, but we'll see. Whether I actually include this or not, it's going to be, I'm not sure, but we'll see. But we're going to take a look anyway.
What's the story? Are you not happy, or you're only half happy, or?
Still to be happy about.
You're up 2-0.
Job's not finished. Job finished? I don't think so.
Okay.